Magic Emperor Chapter 885. Zhuo Fan thought for a second, then put on a sincere face, and explained, to be honest with you guys, she's been dead set on being my wife, but my heart is already taken, so there's no room for anyone else. Maybe she was just messing with you all, so I hope you seniors can be the bigger people and just let it slide. You better come clean about what's really going on here if you two are having some illicit affair. I'm locking her up right now. The guard shouted with a smug grin. Zhuo Fan kept nodding and replied with a smile, of course, if you want to hear it, I'll give you the full breakdown. Actually, this cousin of mine and I were childhood sweethearts who grew up together, so we were really close. I know exactly how she feels about me, but I just can't return those feelings. I am sure you seniors noticed she's been a prodigy since she was a kid, and her cultivation level has totally surpassed mine. Because of that, I've always felt insecure and like I'm completely out of her league. Yet, we gotta admit, you really are good enough for her. The crowd chimed in together, agreeing with that assessment. Zhuo Fan continued the story later on. I happened to fall for a girl from the Tating sect. We got married and had a kid, but her sect was dead set against us and hunted us down relentlessly. With no other choice, I had to take my son and flee all the way to the central state to find a place to hide. Luckily, my cousin took great care of us on the road, otherwise my son and I probably would have been dead meat a long time ago. I honestly don't know how I will ever pay her back for everything she's done. After saying that, Zhuo Fan turned to look at the woman with eyes that were both affectionate and firm. Cousin, my heart already belongs to someone else, so I can only say sorry for your feelings. He let out a soft sigh and turned away, looking like he was carrying a massive emotional burden. Seeing this, everyone around them felt for him, realizing it was a messy love triangle where this beautiful woman was suffering from unrequited love. It was such a shame that a stunning beauty with top-tier cultivation and looks would fall for a low-level guy. Talk about a total injustice by fate. The experts standing there just shook their heads in disappointment, while one of them let out a heavy sigh. Others nodded in agreement. True, but it makes sense since they were childhood sweethearts. Boss, it looks like this family isn't anything to worry about. If those criminals wanted to hide, they'd definitely put on a better act instead of coming up with a complicated mess like this. Just look at their eyes. It's clearly a case of one person being in love and the other just not feeling it. Hearing that, everyone focused their attention back on the two of them. They saw Zhuo Fan's apologetic and sad expression, while the woman stared at him with eyes full of sorrow. They really looked like a pair of star-crossed lovers who, at first glance, seemed like a perfect match. The guards reluctantly shrugged, and the leader cleared his throat before announcing, fine, we get the situation. Now let's get the re-registration done. This house used to be managed by the Feiyun Mansion guards, but since it's been sold to you, it's your property now. There are 3 people living here now, so what's your name? Sir, my name is Guy Yifan. Zhuo Fan quickly stepped forward to greet him and followed the plan. This is my son Guy Santon, and my cousin is. At this point, Zhuo Fan glanced at the woman to give her a cue. She sniffled slightly and replied in a sad voice, my name is Gikeng Jian. Alright, the info is all logged. The guards saved the data into a jade slip and nodded. From now on, you guys are officially the owners of this house. But keep this in mind, if you spot anyone acting shady around here, you have to report it to Feiyun Mansion immediately. Just yell for help or make a loud noise, and we'll be there to handle it in no time. Zhuo Fan bowed respectfully. Yes, thank you for the guidance, senior. But if I may ask, what kind of people are considered suspicious? Do you even have to ask that? The guard raised an eyebrow with a smirk. It's people with no fixed address. Drifters. Those who look aggressive or act sneaky like they were hiding something. Whenever you see people like that, report them to us right away. Got it? Yes, I totally understand. Zhuo Fan kept nodding. Seeing his cooperative attitude, the guards looked satisfied and signaled their subordinates to head out. Alright everyone, let's move on to the next house. With us coming through every nook and cranny like this, let's see if those criminals have anywhere left to hide. Haha. The arrogant laughter gradually faded, and the silhouettes of the Feiyun Mansion guards completely disappeared into the night. Only then did the 3 of them finally feel a sense of relief. Everything's settled. Let's close the door and see our guest out, Zhuo Fan said, lightly clapping his hands and giving the order. Zhao Sanzi was a sharp kid, so he caught his dad's drift immediately. He turned around, grabbed the hand of the woman who had just claimed to be his mother, and started pulling her outside. Of course, Santon only pretended to pull gently like a normal kid, because if he actually used his real strength, she would have been injured long ago. The woman was totally confused, and asked in a panic, hey, what are you two up to? What are we doing? Let's see. Zhuo Fan gave a cold smile, narrowed his eyes, and looked at her sharply. Is there something wrong with your ears? Or did you just not hear what the senior said earlier? It's about when you run into someone with no home who's just loitering around. Hugh Santum quickly chimed in, someone who looks like a thief, has an aggressive face, and acts all sneaky. The father and son worked in perfect sync and stayed together since you were a suspicious person. We have to turn you over to Feiyan Mansion right now. The fact that we were just kicking you out is already being very merciful, so don't push your luck. After saying that, the two of them acted at the same time, quickly shoving her out the door and getting ready to bolt it. Getting pushed out so suddenly, the woman was both shocked and pissed. Seeing the door about to close, she didn't hesitate to throw a powerful kick that made the door let out a loud bang. Inside, Zhuo Fan and Xiao Sanzi pretended to be shaken by the force of the kick, stumbling back a few steps before steadying themselves. Zhuo Fan acted terrified and cried out, "What are you doing? The mansion guards are still right nearby." So what if they were nearby? Do you really think you two will still be alive by the time they get here? The woman hissed, glaring at them with pure rage. Zhuo Fan pretended to tremble, then suddenly changed his face and started complaining, "Look lady, we don't have any beef with you. My son and I have been struggling for years, and we finally made it to the central state to escape being hunted in the west state, just hoping for a quiet life. I don't care if you're connected to those wanted criminals or not, but for the sake of our safety, please just leave. Just consider it a favor to save our lives, and don't drag us into this mess, okay?" The woman paused for a moment, looking at their pathetic expressions, bit her lip, and started to waver. However, right after that, she suddenly asked a totally unrelated question. "Hey, how much of that story you just told was actually true?" "Which story?" "The one about you and your wife being torn apart by the sect. How is she doing now?" she asked softly, clearly curious. Zhuo Fan was a bit surprised, because he didn't expect her to care about his personal life in such a critical situation. To be honest, this was also a secret pain of his. After thinking for a bit, Zhuo Fan suddenly burst out laughing. "None of that was true. I just made it up to fool them, because I didn't want to get dragged down by you. In reality, I made a ton of money, and my career was taking off. I dumped my wife, because she was just dead weight holding me back. Simple as that. She's probably still living a stable life somewhere right now." Before he could even finish his sentence, the woman slapped him hard across the face. She scolded him fiercely. "You scumbag. A person like you doesn't deserve to be called human. Today I'm going to punish this unfaithful jerk on your wife's behalf." With a sharp ring, her sword was drawn from its scabbard, and the cold tip was pointed straight at Zhuo Fan's face. Zhuo Fan pretended to be terrified, waving his hands frantically. "Wait, if you make a move here, the mansion guards will hear it instantly, and you won't be able to escape either. After all, I just saved your life. Are you really going to pay me back with a death threat?" "I'll spare your life for today, but from now on, you better stay out of my sight," she said through gritted teeth, then turned and walked away decisively, not forgetting to call him names and saying she didn't want to stay near someone like him for another second to avoid getting dirty. Watching the woman's figure fade into the night and her insults grow quiet and finally stop, the two of them looked at each other and shared a sly smirk. "Dad, we went through a lot of trouble to save her. Isn't it a waste to just let her go like that?" "Oh, where could she possibly go?" Zhuo Fan gave a cold smile as he saw Xiao Sanhe's confused face and asked if he'd forgotten what those guards were up to earlier. "They were checking every single little detail. I bet Feiyan Mansion is trying to turn this whole city into a steel cage, where every citizen is their eyes and ears and every place to stay is strictly monitored. With things like this, those who are hiding won't have anywhere left to go. She can try to go wherever she wants, but as long as she's still in this city, she'll have to come back here for help sooner or later. She's out of options." Zhao San nodded, getting the point, but he still wondered why his dad didn't just keep her from the start instead of going through the hassle of kicking her out. "Duh. You don't get it. This is the peak of psychological warfare. It's called playing hard to get." Zhuo Fan explained slowly with a scheming look, and his eyes. "Kicking her out wasn't aimed at her, but at the person backing her up. Think about it. If we had been too eager to help hide her right after saving her, wouldn't that make them suspicious that we have some ulterior motive? If the person behind her found out, they'd definitely think we were mansion plants setting a trap. But now it's different. Our act of kicking her out looks exactly like what a normal, cowardly person who's afraid of trouble would do. When they were backed into a corner, they'll come looking for us on their own, thinking they were the ones using ES. But in reality, we were the ones in the driver's seat. In this game, you have to calculate every tiny detail to come out on top.